Okay, here are the assignments for inheritance. The first one, and this is one where you get to choose between this or this one. First one is called Robot Battle Arena Fight. I'm not the best at naming things, but what it is first you have to make a class called Robot. It must have 4 private instance variables that you come up with. You decide what this robot has. You must make accessors and mutators for each of those PIVs, and there should be at least one constructor for robot. And that constructor must initialize all 4 PIVs or any additional PIVs that you write. After you have that, then we have to make sure that the robot can do things. You'll need to write at least 3 methods for doing damage. Each of these methods will probably take in as a parameter another robot, so that way you can have your robot fight that one. You could make these methods be things like punch and kick, though those are, well, depending on what your robot looks like, those might be weird methods for a robot. Lastly, you should have probably another file. You're going to have the actual simulation of a battle, where your robots are going to fight each other until one of the robots is finished. You interpret how I mean that. You can go ahead and take that to mean until one of them has no more durability, or until a certain number of attacks have been done, whatever it's going to be for yours. They should be using those methods that you made. So like these methods up here, these methods should be the ones that are used down here. Don't just have a bunch of print statements saying, okay, he does this, now he does this. No, instead, you should be using these methods in some way. Now, you can do that assignment, or do this one. This is called Game Show. First, make a class called Question. Question has 2 private instance variables, question and answer. I'm hoping you're already thinking that those are probably going to be strings. And you should have accessors and mutators for both of them, and you need to have a constructor for question, and that constructor needs to initialize both PIVs. In another file, you're going to ask the user a series of questions, meaning you're going to need to both print out and read in with a scanner, so that way you can get the user to answer various questions. Every time the user gets a question right, you should increase their score. You need to keep track of their score. There's also this special thing that happens in this game show, where anytime the player gets 3 questions in a row correct, give that player a bonus to the score. Maybe plus 1 point, maybe plus 2 points. You decide how big that bonus is going to be. Questions and answers must make sense. If I'm asking a question about, just simply, what is 2 plus 2, the correct answer better be 4. Your questions and answers need to make sense. I need to see that you are simulating things correctly. Now that's the first. This is this one or this one are the first choice of assignments that you have. So you'd have to do one of these 2 labs first. Said first a few times now, so I'm hoping that's sunk in. The other assignment that comes after is Adventure 2. This is very much like your text game from before. For all those of you who did Adventure text game, this time you're all going to kind of do one, unless you can come up with another idea that is of equal or greater complexity than this one. But you're going to make this second adventure game. You'll need to make a class for item. You'll need to make a class for character. That item class should have 4 PIVs at least. You decide what they are. Must have accessors, mutators, and a constructor. Constructor must initialize all of the private instance variables. You also need to make a class for character. That class for character has 4 private instance variables. Again, it's up to you what they are. You need accessors and mutators for each of them, and you need to have a constructor for the whole class that initializes all of those PIVs. In addition to the 4 that you make up, your character needs to have 1 more private instance variable, which is an array of items called inventory, and that array of items must have at least 2 item slots. If you're confused, I'm telling you this now, the initialization of that array still happens inside the constructor. That is where all the private instance variables should be initialized, in the constructor. Alright, let's see, moving on. That's alright. Moving on. Yes, do have a accessor and mutator for that PIV. Alright, moving on. You must describe scenery. Basically, just take me through the story. Make sure it isn't just a class called item, a class called character, and then nothing happens. He needs to have something being simulated here. To make sure that you don't just write a story where character wakes up one morning, goes to sleep, the end. Your character needs to encounter at least 2 instances where an item could be picked up. And when you make your character and when you make your items, they better be made with constructors. There must be at least 2 events. Fix that. Must be at least 2 events where one of the items can be used. So that's both 2 encounters where you pick up an item and 2 events where an item could be used. There must be different results depending on what item was used, meaning you probably be using if statements there. Your game must also have at least 1 good ending and 1 bad ending, and though I didn't write it here, good and bad are subjective, and basically just have 2 endings. Alright, and that would be it for that. Thank you very much. Best of luck.